So we're reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we're in chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme, which means Krishna is talking about how we can get back to Godhead. And text 10, Prayana Kale Manas Chalena Bhakta Yukto Yoga Baleni Chaiva Ruvo Madhye Param Avesham Yak Samtam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam. So word for word, Prayana Kale, at the time of death, Manasa, by the mind, Achalena, without its being deviated, Bhaktya, in full devotion, Yukta, engaged, Yoga Balena, by the power of mystic yoga, Cha, also, Eva, certainly, Bruvo, the two eyebrows, Madhye, between, Pranam, the life air, Avesha, establishing, Samyak, completely, Saha, he, Tam, that, Param, transcendental, Purusham, personality of Godhead, Upaiti, achieves, Divyam, in the spiritual kingdom. Translation, one who at the time of death fixes his life air between the eyebrows and, by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So repeat, one who at the time of death, fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In this verse, it is clearly stated that at the time of death, the mind must be fixed in devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those practiced in yoga, it is recommended that they raise the life force between the eyebrows to the Agya chakra. The practice of Sat chakra yoga involving meditation on the 6 chakras is suggested here. A pure devotee does not practice such yoga, but because he is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, at death, he can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his grace. This is explained in verse 14. The particular use of the word yoga balena is significant in this verse because without practice of yoga, whether Sat Chakra yoga or bhakti yoga, one cannot come to this transcendental state of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember the Supreme Lord at death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of bhakti yoga. Since one's mind at death is very disturbed, one should practice transcendence through yoga during one's life. Prayana Kale saschalena bhakti-yukto yugabalena chaiva bhuvamadye param avesha samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam. So this chapter, which is entitled Attaining Supreme, in the beginning of the chapter, Arjuna is asking some questions, more questions. So, he's asking, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? And then further he asks in the next verse, who is the Lord of sacrifice, and how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So, just a brief overview up to where I'm supposed to read. In 1 through 4, verses 1 through 4, Lord Krishna answers Arjuna's questions. And then in 5 through 8, Krishna's talking about what it is we remember. Whatever it is we remember at the time of death is where we will certainly go. That's our destination. And if we look through, these verses, Krishna is saying throughout here, he's saying, in 5, he says, he talks about, if you remember him alone, he's saying, of this there's no doubt. And then in 6, he says, he will attain without fail. Then in 7, he says, you will attain me without doubt. And in verse 8, he's saying, you're sure to reach me. And this he's saying, telling Arjuna, you have to remember me. So, in 9 through 13, verses 9 through 13, Krishna talks about remembering him by Yoga Mishra Bhakti, which is, Mishra means mixed Bhakti. So you have devotees who, sometimes become tinged with different desires, even though they're practicing bhakti-yoga. It's a little bit, there's motivation there. So it's tinged with different desires. So the Karma Mishra Bhakti, they do the bhakti, but they want to enjoy the fruits of their work. And then there's a Jnana Mishra Bhakti, and they do bhakti because they want to gain knowledge. And then in Yoga Mishra Bhakti, they aspire to acquire mystic cities. So if the goal is clear, then these bhaktas can attain to Krishna's abode, and understand that Krishna is a person. So the process that's recommended is that they practice according to the yogic process, which is called Sat Chakra Yoga, meditation on the 6 chakras. So Bhishmadev was one, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he's one who could leave when he wanted to. He was blessed with that ability. And so when he was laying on the battlefield, he was waiting for the right time. He was waiting for Krishna, but he was also waiting for the sun to pass a certain horizon, to pass into the northern hemisphere. But Bhishma Dev, he's a rare devotee, He received the divine grace of the Lord. He's not controlled by the laws of nature. He's not forced to live by the laws of nature. So as a pure devotee, he entered the spiritual realm in one of the Vaikuntha planets. This is in Bhagavad-Gita 1:9-29. It describes Vishnu's passing. So, and invite the Vaikuntha planet where he went, the Lord is there, and his eternal form is Parthasarthi. But the next point in this verse is that a pure devotee does not have to go through all these yoga practices. It's said in the scriptures that, first of all, this Kali Yuga, so all those disciplines and practices, majority of people can't do. And plus, it's said in the scriptures that it's very rare, for a person to reach it that way. So, let me get to my... So, why are we studying this philosophy? What does it mean? Prabhupada says that philosophy means to keep death in the front of your eyes. But the first thing that we have to kill, the first thing that has to go, is the false ego. The ego of thinking I'm man, I'm woman, I'm black, I'm white, I'm Indian body, I'm Russian body, I'm African body. So we have to come out of that identification. We have to understand our nature as a spirit soul and understand our duty as a spirit soul. What are we supposed to do once we realize that that's what we are? We're spirit soul, we're not these bodies. So we, all of us here who are attending the Bhagavad-Gita class, we're in the process of reviving, trying to revive our original identity. So we're practicing, my Guru Maharaj used to say, we're practicing so we can make the great escape. I remember there was this movie some time ago called The Great Escape. So leaving this planet, this material world, is the great escape. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-8, before I read that, so we're preparing for leaving the body. This is our practice. We're sadhakas. We're practicing the process. So it means we're preparing. So how do we, as sadhakas, how do we pass the final test? In Srimad Bhagavatam 1:28, 1-8, as I was saying, and this is really a beautiful, remembrance. It said that the need of the spirit soul is that he wants to get out of the limited sphere of material bondage and fulfill his desire for complete freedom. He wants to get out of the covered walls of the greater universe. He wants to see the free light and the spirit. That complete freedom is achieved when he meets the complete spirit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one should desire and hanker after the Supreme Kingdom. We should want to go there. And the only way we can develop desire to go there is to constantly hear about Krishna, to constantly hear about the spiritual world, to constantly, try to improve our chanting. So first, we should have faith in the promises that Krishna is making through the scriptures. He's telling us, first of all, that we're spirit souls, that we need to practice the chanting. We need to chant Hare Krishna. This is what Prabhupada came to the West to give us, this process of trying to leave the planet. And so, as spirit souls in a material body, we have a tendency to doubt, which is exhibited by Arjuna, to doubt the philosophy. So we see, as I was reading before, we see in verses 5 through 10 that Krishna is telling us how to do it. And he's telling you, don't doubt, like I'm assuring you that this is where, you can go. All you have to do is follow the process that's given. So, we have to practice it in the way that's prescribed, what's given to us by our spiritual master. We have to practice it sincerely and focused. I mean, it's like, this death is sure. You're born and you die. It's like, a woman who gets pregnant. Once she's pregnant, the baby has to come. There's no out, She takes the pain that goes with it. There's no out there. You have to deliver. So just like us, we took birth. So we have to leave. We have to go. So we have to put that process in the front, of our thinking to understand, I mean, because we can see that, okay, Parikshit Maharaj, what did he do? He just left everything, went to the forest. We're in the forest. This is Vrindavan. At least the forest is there. We might not be able to see all of it, but the forest is there. And he heard. But Parikshit Maharaj, he knew when he was going to die. Somebody told him, you're going to leave in 7 days. So he knows. But do we know when we're going to leave? We could walk out any day, any time, and be gone. We don't know, So we always have to remember, put that in front of us. So, so as I was saying, we don't need to do the process of the yogis. We are given the process of how we can, remember Krishna. So we know, Prabhupada says, always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that chanting is very, very important. That's one of the main processes. In verse 5 of the purport, Krishna says, chant incessantly. Incessantly means, what does incessantly mean? Somebody tell me. Incessantly. Okay? It means all the time. It's not like, I've been reading the books of remembering Prabhupada, the memories of the devotees, Prabhupada's devotees, because Prabhupada to me is such an amazing person that I can't get enough of reading about him, of reading about what he's done and the difficulties he went through. And his whole character is so beautiful. He had such a sense of humor, but he was like they said, he can be like a thunderbolt, but he could also be like a Bengali mother, like a rose. So I'm really so much appreciating more and more Srila Prabhupada's mercy upon all the living entities in the world, So it means incessantly, it means to chant without stopping. Keep the holy name always on your tongue. But if we're not at that point, and we have service, and we can, but even if we don't service, we can always chant. It means just to keep chanting. Prabhupada never stopped chanting. It's not like, when I was reading the memories, Shruta Kirti name came up, and he was telling one incident when he went into Srila Prabhupada's room and Prabhupada was chanting. And Prabhupada, I think it was just for Shuddha Kirti's benefit, he finished chanting, he put down his beads, he said, there, I've done my 16 rounds, I can do any damn thing I want, you know. So we shouldn't just put our beads down and say, okay, I've done my 16, I'm done. You know, we're never done. In fact, 16 is only the minimum. Krishna was so kind. 16, my realization is 16 is not, it's not enough for me. Not with my mind, it's not enough. I have to chant more. I have to force myself to chant more. Because sometimes in the mind it just says, okay, well I did my 16. But we have to do more, you know. And we have to really work with our mind, with attention, chant with attention and offenselessly. And we have to keep bringing the mind back when it wanders. We have to get into the practice. We know when the mind is all over the place. You can hear the name in the background, but your mind is somewhere else. So we have to bring it back. You know, we have to keep working. It's a process. We have to keep working because we've been in the material world for forever, wandering around on the ferry wheel of birth and death, coming back again and again and thinking we're enjoying just coming, enjoying the material nature, thinking we're, you know, going to be happy, looking for that happiness. So I will say it again. We always want to remember Krishna and never forget him. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:627 is saying that we have to be fully absorbed in the thought of Krishna. So when we're fully absorbed in the thought of Krishna, that means we're clearing away the material dirt and the hankering. That's what the chanting is for, to help us clean the heart. We're trying to prepare a throne in our heart for Krishna to sit on, you know. But my heart, I don't know about anybody else's, is charcoal, and it needs constant cleaning. And you know, with coal, the dirt keeps coming. No matter what you do, the dirt keeps coming. So we have to keep trying to cleanse, you know, and be determined, you know, that I want this, you know. I want to go to Krishna. I want to understand Krishna, you know. So we don't need any more tasting anything more in the material world. We already know what it's done. We've done it for millions of lifetimes, chewing the chewed. You know, it's like Prabhupada gives the example of sugar cane. Once you chew it, there's nothing left. I mean, you can chew it again, but you're not going to get anything out of it. It's just like when I was young, and I used to chew gum all the time, bubble gum. And once the flavor comes out, you got to throw it away because there's no sweetness left. You know, it doesn't make any sense to pick it up and chew it again. No. But then we come back to chew it again because we think it's going to be different, you know. So we shouldn't, you know, like, try to be happy here. There's no happiness here. Prabhupada uses such strong words about the material world, you know. And he uses it to, like, wake us up. But we've had a wake-up call. 2020 had to be a wake-up call for everybody, you know. And I've heard, you know, people say, oh, I'll be glad when we get back to normal. So I'm like, really, what is normal? We are thinking that a certain way of living is normal. But the material nature, with 2020, the material nature just lifted up the veil of the material world so we could see exactly what's going on and to understand, no, this is just the first of whatever may come living in the material world, you know. I mean, we can see in even historical past, because maybe, at least myself, I haven't gone through any really traumatic events in my life. This is the first one, this COVID thing, that was, really closing the whole world. That's big, but we should understand. No, that's just part of the material world. That's it. This is it. That's what's really happening. We got to see it. So it should really push us to chant stronger, chant more, like crying for Krishna to please, pick me up. So whatever thoughts we have at the time of death will take us to the next destination. And we have the example, there's other examples in our scriptures, but we have the example of Maharaj Bharat, who was very exalted. He was, totally fixed on the supreme goal. He was a great personality. He was a pure devotee. But just see, he went to the woods to get away from everything, and then what happens? He becomes attached to a deer. He saw, the mother drinking water out of the lake, and I guess she heard the roar of a lion or something, and she miscarried, and the baby dropped out, and he picked up the deer, and his whole thinking, instead of what he was doing before, which was focusing on his worship, he became attached to the deer. It occupied his whole mind. And it's so, if he, as an example for us, can be taken away, by his mind focusing on something else, what to speak of us, So, it said that at the time of death, our life passes before us like in a fast movie, a fast-forwarded movie, So we have to examine ourselves. Where am I? It's self-examination as we go through this process is really important. We have the scriptures, we have the sadhus, we have our spiritual master, the guru, whatever questions come up or whatever help we need, we're fortunate. We have someone we can talk to, someone we can ask, someone who can tell and ask, what do I do here? I'm in this situation, or, and as I've said before in the class, when I don't have anyone to ask, if I pick up the scriptures, invariably what I'm reading applies to my situation, and the answer comes because we're seeking. Krishna answers when you're seeking, So we should prepare for the death of the material body. We have seen so many devotees have left their body during this past year, 2020. But with the devotees, Krishna is there. They're under Krishna's care. Krishna picked them up like a mother picks up the kitten to take you to safety with love. But in general, for the material world, death picks them up. The cat picks them up like the cat picks up a rat. So there's a difference in the two. So we have to ask ourselves, where am I in my spiritual life? Where am I in my chanting? How is my chanting going? So we have a prescribed method. It's been given to us. It's up to us, to make use of it. And once we made the commitment to our guru, and we also have a commitment to Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada gave his life's blood to help us get out of the material world, to give us Krishna. So, by following all the prescribed, methods, and we can come to the stage of asamsamaya samagram, understanding of the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And I want to just share something, read something to you. Before I finish, I also, for those of us who have to work, who have to have, some work to do outside, you have to do material activities, you can, in verse 7, sorry, he's saying that because he was thinking that Arjuna was still thinking he should meditate, that was what Krishna was recommending. But in verse 7, Krishna clarifies to Arjuna, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. So in the purport, it is said, this instruction to Arjuna is very important for all men engaged in material activities. The Lord does not say that one should give up his prescribed duties or engagements. One can continue them and at the same time think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. This will free one from material contamination. So there are a lot of, grihastha couples, they have to take care of their ashram, they have to go work, to take care of their children. But so this, there's a lot of instructions for grihasthas in the Bhagavad-Gita. But here, particularly because we're in this chapter, it says, at the same time, think of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna. This will free one from material contamination and engage the mind and intelligence in Krishna. By chanting Krishna's names, one will be transferred to the supreme planet Krishna Loka without a doubt. So there's 3 short things I'd like to read out of. This is Die Before Dying by Bhakti-Tirtha Maharaj. What I want to read is something in here by Sachinandana Swami, and the other one is Burjan Adhikari. Okay, see if I can find it. I have the page listed. 52. And this one is first one is by Bhakti-Tirtha Maharaj. It says, the Swarup Lakshana is full dependence on Krishna. To depend fully on Krishna and always think of him is the essence of bhakti-yoga and of the science of giving up false proprietorship. All things that reinforce our false identification with the material body and the material world incarcerate us more in the material prison. By thinking of ourselves as controllers, we keep interfering with Krishna's mercy, blessings, empowerment, and love descending upon us. When we are confronted with chronic illness and other great challenges, we can feel, at least for me as I get older, you can feel the change in the body, and you start seeing the diminishing of the body because you start getting certain aches and pains, and it's not going to get better. It means that you're on your way. The body is diminishing. That's what it does. That's what material body does. That's everything material diminishes. So that's what happens. So when we are confronted with chronic illness and other great challenges, when we are not just pursuing an ordinary life, and when we are not overly intoxicated in trying to possess the opulences of Krishna, we are great candidates for becoming first-class bhaktas. It is the mercy of Guru and Krishna who remind us from time to time that we're not the controllers. Thus, we can depend more on their guidance, empowerment, and mercy, while appreciating Krishna's all-attractive opulences. I, the beggar, am full of gratitude that Guru and Krishna has forced me to see better that I'm not the controller, so as to be a less comfortable prisoner in the material world. Therefore, my chances of returning back to the spiritual world have increased profoundly. So the next one is Burijan 137. His Grace Burijan 137. He says here, in my own life, I've recently discovered the value of watching my mind and observing where it seeks shelter during life's tests. And who in here can say that we haven't had tests in our walk through this beautiful path of bhakti-yoga? We've had so many tests. Do I become angry and blame others? Do I eat, shop, turn on the radio, or just become busy? Embarrassingly and sadly, I've noted my shelter is often neither Srila Prabhupada, nor Krishna, nor Vrindavan, nor Nitai, nor Gaura. Nor often is it Krishna's holy names called out loudly and sincerely in my true need. Philosophy may easily roll from the tongue, but its ultimate test is whether or not it carries us to a true shelter, the lotus feet of Krishna and his dear ones. In this way, life prepares us for death, the ultimate test. And the last one is taken from, written by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, 135. Here it is said, so what is service proper? Hegel's philosophy is, die to live, dissolve your ego as it is at present. Dissolve it mercilessly, die. Die means to dissolve mercilessly. Throw yourself into the fire, and you will come out with a bright self. Learn to die as you are. That mentally concocted body, that concocted energy, to take the name of the Lord and die. Forget yourself as you are at present, and you will find your proper self there that does not die. Death is ordained for our existence, so give to death that part of you that is ordained to die, and the eternal part of you will remain. Not only physical death, but real death. The wholesale death is necessary. And this is from, he had written in a book called The Journal of Sri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. And so, you know, we have the process, we have our spiritual master, we're in the association of the devotees, we're given the holy name, we have all the methods to remember Krishna, to serve Krishna, we're in the holy Dham, we have everything. We have everything to prepare for this exit out of this prison of the material world. And I thank all of you for your attention. If there are any questions or comments, corrections, please. Anyone? Yes, Babu.
Thank you very much for your wonderful memories about Srila Prabhupada and your taste for hearing Prabhupada. It's not question, it's like a discussion about it.
Okay.
And we say that we should put in our front that death, we don't know when the death will come.
Yes.
And in that state of mind we should chant. We have heard also before this.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, we say chant and be happy.
Yes.
But if you are seeing death all the time, then how you are still happy?
Because it's the way we look at death. We're looking at death in a way that is negative, and it's not. It's not a negative. We should. I was saying earlier in the class that we should read the descriptions of the spiritual world. We should read constantly the pastimes of Krishna. We don't belong here. So chant me happy means chanting Krishna's holy name and actually being happy about being able to even chant. You know? Being able to chant. And because we're in this material world and we've, been out there, materialists look at death in a negative way. Because the reason they look is because everything is taken away. Everything's taken away from them, their home, their family, everything they put their whole self into, what they depended on, their money, their job, their house, their family, seeking happiness, going here and there, seeking sense gratification, thinking they're the controllers, thinking that they're God. But we have a different view of death, because sometimes people will say devotees are morose because they talk about death. But we're not. And I was just thinking of an incident of Ramanujacharya. When he left his body, he was sitting in samadhi, and his disciples were all crying. And he said to them, "Why are you crying? I should be crying for you, because you have to stay here." You have to stay here. I get to go. And this death thing is only because, and I'm one of them, we think we're the body. But we're not. We're eternally spirit beings. We have a full, beautiful life. And in my last class, I talked about Krishna is waiting for us. He has his Leela's pastimes going on in Krishna Loka, but our spot is missing. He's looking over there and saying, "Where's that devotee? I have to send somebody to go get him." So this mood we have to cultivate, and we won't see death in a negative way. We see Krishna. And also, I think you've heard this incident where one disciple asked Srila Prabhupada about there was a war or some talk of war, and the disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, what do we do when the bombs drop? What are you going to do? Bombs, if the bombs drop?" And Prabhupada said, "Here comes Krishna." I mean, we're not there, but we should strive to get there. When I read about Prahlad Maharaj, and the snakes, he was seeing Krishna in everything. That's why we have these, for us to see in the scriptures, those great personalities who always saw Krishna. No. So this is what we want to cultivate. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. It's okay, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Welcome to, yes, Krishna Balaram Mandir. It's okay, Jai. Hare Krishna. Okay, any more? Anybody else? Thank you for your question, Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Thank you so much. Haribol.